Well, Samantha came into our life through a private adoption. She was born December 10th, 1989. At that time, her older sister was 3. Jessica was born 1986, also a private adoption. Jessica was 7 weeks premature, and so she had a lot of special concerns physically and developmentally, and throughout her life up till now has had some special needs, developmentally and mentally. When she was first born, she was a very, very happy baby. We really noticed Sam beginning to have some social and behavioral and academic problems about 3rd grade.
We both remember her coming home for the first time, and the mother's attorney brought her to the house, and he had her in a car seat, and we had a car seat. I guess we had given them the car seat, and so we brought her in and we set her under the Christmas tree, and we had just decorated, and the lights were blinking, and I thought, this kid is going to be so smart, because first thing, looks up at the Christmas tree, and she's turning her head, and she's actually following the lights. And I know enough about child development that, you know, they're not supposed to go past the midpoint and all this stuff, and she's looking all around, and her eyes are going back and forth. And we knew right then she was going to be pretty special. The Snow White thing was, she really loved Snow White. It was not unusual to see her out in the backyard leading a group of neighborhood kids singing hi-ho, you know, and they'd all have tools in their hands, and they'd be going through the backyard singing hi-ho. And eventually she literally memorized the entire dialogue to the movie. And again, we're thinking, you know, that's not something that most people can do, you know, even adults. And, you know, she just had this incredible memory. And
I became a infatuation with Snow White when I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I saw it in the theater and I wanted to own it, and then eventually when we did own it, I was able to memorize like that, just line by line by line and cue by cue by cue. By the time I was 6 or 7, you know, I had the entire movie memorized.
There have been some sort of savant qualities to Sam. If somebody gives me change and say the change is 1947, she'll say, well, your change will be 1947. In 1947, Franklin Roosevelt was the president. She'll start ticking off.
No, he wasn't.
You're right, see? She did start off in a Montessori program at a church in downtown Toledo. Did very well there, so we moved her on to a regular school that was a Montessori, and she did pretty well for a while. Didn't exactly fit the mold of the student that they were apparently looking for. Sam would challenge the teachers, and that didn't go over well, and it became pretty evident that you know, that wasn't going to be able to continue. And eventually we put her in the public school where we were. I think she started there in 4th grade.
I think from the Montessori school to the 4th grade in the public school was a difficult transition because of socially that was a real important kind of social time. With 4th and 5th grade, Sam was becoming more isolated, not having as many friends as a lot of the children her age, really was preferred to be alone, was struggling academically. And then in 5th grade, Sam became very infatuated with the Civil War. And at that point, she read a lot about it, and we watched a lot of movies about it, and she's very knowledgeable about it. But she became depressed in 5th grade, and at one point was going to sever her arm. What they did in the Civil War, when you had an injury, there wasn't a lot of medical care. You amputated a limb. But she was depressed, and she was talking about suicide. So that's when we became connected with some professionals. We were referred then for therapy. And the initial interview we had with the therapist talked with Sam for quite some time and came out and said, have you ever heard of Asperger's syndrome? And Dave and I and Sam were, no. And so then she kind of explained it, and we were like, oh. We were really relieved to identify what was going on with Sam, because we thought we just weren't really getting her to move off that Civil War, and we even took parenting classes because we didn't think we were doing a good job. We became involved with therapy and psychiatrist, and Sam got some medication, and it was I think 5th and 6th grade, and and even junior high. We're tough socially. They're tough for children with special needs.
As Luann said, it was really almost came as a relief to hear Asperger's, because it was, oh, okay, now I've got something, I've got a name I can put to it, I can read about it, I can find out about it. It's not just that, you know, we're doing something wrong here. So it was, that was sort of a watershed moment for us. It also helped because then at school we could start, and we had some very serious battles with the school because they did not want to provide the services that they were mandated to provide. We had to hire an educational advocate at one point who went in and basically read the riot act to the school, and you know, threats and everything. And eventually, as she moved up through the school system, out of the middle school to the other schools, it got a lot better. And Sam was great. You know, she had moments where she would sort of have what we came to call meltdowns, where she would just be sobbing and you know, angry and sometimes suicidal, but you know, she would work through them. And we were very proud of her because kids with Asperger's don't handle change well, and that transition from the Montessori school where she'd been for 4 years to the public school was difficult for her. It's hard to make friends. You know, you lost those friends that you had. She didn't have many, but she had some, and now you've got a whole new group.
Best thing that happened to me is that my parents, the school kicked me out, and my parents moved me to the public schools. At that point, I had come in contact, well, actually it wasn't until the middle school, but I had come in contact with a young gentleman who would become a very, very close friend of mine. And about 16, 17 months later, in May of 2002, this gentleman, his name was Ross, he would end up hanging himself, and that was probably my best thing that ever happened to me, excuse me, because if he hadn't hanged himself, I probably wouldn't be alive right now. Ross's death made me so much stronger mentally, and it made me so much stronger physically that I wasn't willing to give in. Each time I got really, really upset and I would put the knife to my arm, I would stop and think, wait a minute, I had this happen to me. What would happen to my family and my friends if I did something? How would they react? And I just kept remembering, how did I react when Ross died? And how would my family and my friends react if I had done something like that? So that's what has stopped me all these years from actually attempting or actually doing it. My parents were extremely helpful because they understood that once Ross died, that I think they understood the fact that it was a little hard for me to, I'm still trying to move on from him, and it's once I got into the junior high, I mean the middle school, they just didn't want anything to do with me, but Once I got to the junior high and the high school, they realized that if I had one of these meltdowns, that I needed to remove myself from the classroom, go get a drink. So they would allow me 5 to 10 minutes to just relax and calm down. Once I started at Penna, that was another hard transition for me to make from Anthony Wayne to Penta, because I didn't know anyone there, and besides the Anthony Wayne students who went there. So, and it was really a hard transition, because at Anthony Wayne, everybody knew me by name. Kids who I didn't even know would come up and say, "Hey, Sam, what's up? How you doing today?" And I would look at them and I'd be thinking, "Do I know you?"
I mean, we worked really hard to develop a communication and kind of develop a plan of action for Samantha at school, so that when she was feeling overwhelmed and she was really emotional, that she had a chain of command. And eventually we kind of had to educate the school system about what Asperger's was, because at that time there were not that many Asperger's children that were diagnosed that were currently enrolled. So we got a lot of, "I don't think she really has Asperger's. She's manipulative and you baby her." We got some of that, but we ignored that, and many times we had a therapist or even our psychiatrist was able to attend school meetings and would kind of explain to her teachers about Samantha and about Asperger's. Her guidance counselor in high school was great, and some of her teachers were really good about really making a commitment to Sam to do what it needed to be done to keep her in school and to keep her in class.
I don't know if we got a reputation or the schools just got better as she moved up, but once she moved past the middle school stage, I think people were starting to hear about her. People were starting to hear about Asperger's. All of a sudden, you saw it everywhere. You know, we had never heard of it when we were told this. She has been very fortunate to have a wonderful support group of adults that have sort of cocooned her with love. And finally, we sort of are really remiss to not talk about the influence that horses had on Sam.
More of a reward to know that no matter what happened at school, you know, Saturdays were days to look forward to, because I get to go out and see Stewie and get to groom him and saddle him and ride him and then untack him, groom him again, and put him back in his stall. I got into art. Actually, my mom was the one who inspired me to get into art, because she does glass, she makes jewelry, and then I got into art, I got into painting, and then I've done some glass. I did my necklace that I'm wearing today. She
joined 4-H, she got blue ribbons, she was eventually the 4-H member of the year for her club. It really showed her that she could do some things and had some good leadership skills. A lot of those, while they weren't directly school related, a lot of those things made that transition or made those challenges at school easier, because she knew that there were people sort of outside that were supporting her and helping her along. Visioning was the first real contact, sort of person-to-person contact I think we had with the Department of Developmental Disabilities, and a representative from that agency came to our home, and we sat in our own dining room in a very comfortable setting and had some of Sam's supports from church and the community that were there. And everybody went around the table and talked about what they wanted for Sam. It was very much, you know, a general sort of thing. We'd like Sam to be successful. We'd like her to grow up and work and you know, have a family if that's what she chooses. So it was really good for us. We didn't really know what this was about, but for parents, I think we were so involved in getting her through school and, you know, that day-to-day thing, and, you know, bam, you all of a sudden she's graduating. You go, whoa, you know, yikes, now what do we do? And to have someone come in and say, well, you know, there's a whole array of services out there. There's a whole new world. It can be a very exciting time if you have the right support. It can be a very dangerous time because now you've got free time that needs to be filled because Samantha's used to a lot of structure.
The visioning opened up a whole door of activities and programs for Samantha as an adult.
It was helpful to know how much, you know, these people had seen me grow and they had seen me improve.
Sam has been involved with the University of Bowling Green in a class collaboration with teachers and with professionals, and the population are future teachers. She's been involved with both undergraduate and graduate classes, where Sam has been embedded in the class as a student and has helped the teachers become more aware of what it's like to be a child with disabilities in a classroom. Sam has a PowerPoint that she has presented both to the University of Bowling Green and the University of Toledo in the education department. So Sam has done a very good job of presenting what it's like to have autism, Asperger's syndrome with teachers. So I think that's a real important piece that Sam has done, volunteering and giving back to the community.
I was awarded Self-Advocacy Person of the Year for 2009 by the Board of Developmental Disabilities. That took a lot of work. I was proud of myself. You know, I felt like I had accomplished something. I spoke to the board at the annual board meeting. The speech is about 2.5 to 3 minutes, so it went really well. I'm hoping to go to school, and I'm hoping to go to BGSU and get my, my major in education.